What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Collective Podcast. And for some of you, you may already have the blessing of your kids being in school. For others, you have the future blessing of them about to be in school. And for some, school is still quite a ways off, which means you have to put up with your kids for a little bit longer, but you also will have more time to implement what we're going to talk about today. Shane, tell the people what we'll be discussing.
Yeah, I think what's really important is understanding and navigating the seasonality in life in relationship to your business. And so for many people, we find a lot of seasonality on the West Coast here. People don't want to move the last month or two before school gets out. They want to wait. So there's seasons where it's really busy. There's seasons where it's quieter. And everyone has that. And so whether you're coming into this saying, yeah, I got to really jumpstart my mind, I've been on vacation, or you're saying my busy season is actually in December, how you navigate the wind down of one season and stepping into another is the same regardless. And so we want to really just lean into and almost brainstorm some of the things that you should be doing when you're coming out of a season or coming into a season. And I think for many of you, on the West Coast, you're still in summer vacation mode. You start in September, typically after Labor Day. For those in the South, they're like, are you in school or are you just about to be?
They go to school in 7 days, not
7 days
counting.
So we're in this season where for many, we've just gone through vacations. And so your business is in a little bit of, it's disjointed. And in fact, we had a conversation online with one of our contributors who was apologizing for being a little disconnected, little maybe disjointed right now. And the reality is that is true for everyone when you're in a season of vacation. And now you go from having no kids at home to now kids at home or whatever that looks like. And so I think what's really important is simplifying when you're in a season of balance. Like, so last week I was on vacation, but that didn't mean I didn't do any work because I have 3 companies and I have only remote staff. And so there were things that needed to get done. How do you balance vacation, family, and still generating revenue for your business? Because what we know about real estate agents and loan officers specifically is you really can't take a season off.
Right.
Now, that's not to say that you can't pre-build a bunch of stuff, go dark for 2 weeks, but your marketing doesn't go dark. And so what I really want to dig into is just a couple of ways to navigate these seasons that are not your consistent season. And I think that's the best way of putting it, because whether you're going back to school, you're in school, you're getting ready to be in school, you're in the middle of your summer vacation, this is not your normal selling season. And what do you do differently during this season versus your standard season where every day is the same? You get into that rhythm, that routine. You've got your Friday events. You've got your monthly meetings with your BNI groups. All these things are in your cadence. And then summer hits and you're out of cadence. And what happens for many in our industry is they just completely fall apart. And they stop doing the things that they should. They remove those really good habits. It's like, and I'll tell a quick story on this, and then I want to get into your thoughts on this. So I hired David Goggins to be my personal coach. This was back when David was well known, but not the guy he is today. I probably couldn't even get on the phone with him today.
Yeah.
And he's just a different animal now. But I was blessed to be able to work with David for just about a year. And we would meet weekly and have hour-long conversations Sunday nights. That was our time. And I was getting ready to go on a vacation. I was going to Maui with my wife. And this was pre-Olivia. And in my mind, when I went on vacation, everything went on vacation.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like I just went to Hawaii. I stopped working out. I stopped being active. Like, I just kind of said, screw it. Right. If you don't drink, then you're like, oh, I'm on vacation. Like, it's that old line that we use. I'm on vacation. And that is an instant out for us to hold ourselves responsible to the things we know we should be doing, whether business or personal. And I go on vacation, and like before that, I had been so strict in my routines with David every day. Every time I would step through my office door, I had to do push-ups or pull-ups. I had a cadence to my day that was militant. It was strict. and it was built to create discipline that I otherwise didn't have. I threw all that out the window. And I didn't ask for clarity from David. I just assumed poorly, which we should never do. Vacation is vacation. Take it all off. I get back from vacation and David gets on our call, and I'm already feeling like we know that we shouldn't have had that extra drink the night before. We know that we shouldn't have skipped listening to MBS Highway, to understand that the market was going to tank the day after you got back from vacation. We know. I know I'm not supposed to have done what I did. So I'm like nervous. I get a call. David goes, "Hey, brother, how was your week?" And I go, "Good, good, good." Very vague. "Well, what'd you do?" Well, he's digging. He knows. He knows. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I was active." He's like, "How active were you? What'd you do?" And I'm like, "I was pretty active." And in my mind, I'm like, I walked a mile and a half to Starbucks, legitimately. I did that. And I jogged a few days and we went swimming at the ocean. As soon as he got, in with me on this conversation, and I admitted I took it off, man. I took the week off. I was on vacation. He ripped me for 30 minutes plus. He was screaming at me on the phone. I was dripping in sweat. There was nothing I could say that would sound like anything other than a really weak excuse from a person that didn't do what they said they were going to do. And he was right. And what he said to me was, "Who said you could take that week off? Who said you should take that off?" Now, I don't want to say that we shouldn't create balance. We should. But for me, in my life and my goals, my aspirations at that time, I was struggling with my health. I couldn't afford to take a week off from exercising every day. And being honest, if I would have just woke up a little bit earlier, it wouldn't have impacted my vacation negatively at all. I didn't need to take a vacation to actually still take a vacation. And that question was so poignant to me because it's come back to me several times. As I was on my vacation, I'd get up in the morning early. I'd get on my Surface, get my work done for an hour, clear my inbox, remove anxiety, right? Check my bank accounts, make sure everything was moving where it's supposed to, checking with the team, my VAs. And then I have some ongoing, I'm hiring more staff. I couldn't take a week off from that process. So I worked through that, but it didn't impact my vacation at all. Right. And so I think that this conversation is so important because whether you've gone through a season where you've closed more loans than you expected to, you had a huge paycheck, your biggest paycheck yet came in, the natural inclination is to then want to take it off and reward yourself because you had one good at bat instead of a season of good at bats.
Right.
So instead of that, right, I would like to argue today that you can simplify during that season, but you never take off in an industry where you only make money when your brand, your actions, your efforts are consistently taking place.
Yeah, this is an interesting conversation because I think in my life I've probably leaned more towards the other side of, dude, if I'm off, I'm off. I'm not doing nothing. And I think, my response to that would be, if you understand and come into agreement with the consequences, do whatever you want. I think that's most people don't think about the consequence part. And, maybe I would have gotten you to that place a little nicer than David Goggins probably did. But it's like, okay, we know the habits we're forming and that we have that are generating what they're generating. And so as long as I'm cool with hey, bro, if you take a week off here, you're going to see a lull there. And if I'm fine with that, then who am I to tell somebody that they can't go unplug for the week? But I think that's where most people in our industry are, is they don't understand truly what cadence is.
They don't have a clue.
And they just see it as in the moment, dude, that was cool. I'd love for that to happen again. And there were so many things that led to that they're unaware of.
And let me add some context and a little bit of clarity. I am not advocating not having balance. What I'm advocating is when you have opted in to a season of work,
Yeah.
you cannot mentally take a vacation during that season.
Yeah.
Now, I now am in a place and my season of work, and I know a lot of people have the same experience as me. They go, dude, I missed my child's like all these events and I did these things. And that's all true. I would look back at those times and say, well, you lack discipline and you weren't doing the things you should have done. But the story they tell is I have to do it this way now because I didn't have balance before. The reality is so far from that. The reality is I was in that season of grind and growth. Let's call that growth for way too long. And I didn't actually grow things that were sustainable. So there's a difference between planting flowers that rebloom every year or planting a flower that once it dies, you have to dig it up and replant next year. And they're annuals versus perennials, right? I think a perennial is the one where it's like a bulb. You plant it and it grows, it multiplies, and every year it just keeps sprouting up. You don't have to really do a whole lot.
Yeah.
You want your business when you're in that season of growth to be planting perennials. You want to be doing things that will sustain you so that you can get to a place where you take off. My life now, after that season of growth, which was burnout, which was tough, which was a lot of sacrifice, that vacation I was just on, we've been going to that same place for 30 years. 7 of the last 10, I was working most of the time, right? That was not ideal. Now I'm in a position where I'm not. I will tell you that in an average day for me, I'm done with work by 2:30, 3 o'clock. I'm able to go home and like kick it with my daughter. She loves being on her scooter. I coach T-ball. So I'm not sitting here saying, grind, kill yourself. You know what I mean? I'm saying that when you're on the track and you've opted into that race, you can't stop running until you cross the finish line. And what most people do is they'll say, I'm taking a vacation. They literally stop on the middle of the track. And whether they celebrate or they commiserate, they're doing that mid-race.
Yeah.
And that's so unhealthy for momentum in business. And so I wanted to just frame what we're actually going to talk about from that experience, because I'm the guy who's burned out. I'm the guy who was almost divorced. I'm the guy who was missing all of the family events. I'm the guy who didn't invest as much time in my friends as I should have. Like friends from when I was 3 years old, one of those friends ended up dying of cancer. And the last several years, I didn't invest in him because I was too busy in growth mode. And that was, again, planning things that I had to keep replanning every year. Unhealthy, unsustainable growth mode. Now, what do you want to be doing in these seasons where you're like, I've got to have more balance. I've got to have a heavier focus on family or on self-health, whatever that is. And I would advocate that there's probably for everyone no more than at most 5, but probably 3 things that if they do those 3 things, their business will keep going. It's not going to be perfect necessarily. Now, if you have a team, it's different. But what I am advocating is the things you can do outside of staff to keep your brand, your growth, your trajectory moving forward. And so for me, it was pretty simple. I needed to be engaged with my referral partners every week. Now, in the summer, you can cheat a little bit by having an in-person meeting. And I mean, what I mean by that is I was doing like marketing every week. Every Friday, I would send out marketing information to my agents about where the market stood, what they should be expecting. And I broke my Friday communication into 3 parts. What's going on in the market, what's going on with mortgage, and something proprietary that we offer that they would benefit from every Friday. You could almost pre-record those, and especially if you're just gone for a week, right? You could absolutely pre-record that, but that was non-negotiable. Every Friday that was going out to 900 to 1,000 referral partners or potential referral partners. I wanted them to be like seeing my brand, my face every Friday. Now, again, if you meet in person, I could skip a week and they would still have, because there is more benefit, there is more impact being in person. And so if I'm in person, I'm saying, I'm going to be out of town next week, blah, 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 and I'm doing other stuff, I'm still going to be in front of them. So I think that's like, for me, that was one of my 3 non-negotiables was Friday, updates for referral partners. Now, I would also do an update for active pre-approvals and leads. And this was really important because their vacation isn't when my vacation is. And so they're out shopping for homes when I'm gone, and then they're reaching out, they can't get me or whatever the case may be. And I'm losing that business. And so I also maintain that Friday market update for those people. And then second was social media. If I have done my job, every time I'm intaking a new lead, I'm inviting them to connect with me online. Hey, get to know me outside of mortgage. And then it was my profiles for Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, right? If I do that, and I'm then also searching them out online, they are seeing me inner tubing with my cousins on the boat in Lake Chelan. They're seeing me having morning coffee time with my wife on the trip. And so I'm not business brand in front of them, but personal brand in front of them. And that's easy to do. I mean, like it's if you just tell your spouse, hey, here's the deal. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, this next week on vacation, I'm going to be doing like 30 minutes or less of social media work just to make sure I maintain my database. If you do what you say you're going to do outside of that, and you're actually the guy who comes home on time, you're actually the person who like is at the events, not on your phone, your spouse respects that. And they get it because you're the one who's helping fund that vacation. So that's number 2 for me. And I think just with those 2 right there alone, I can feel really good about my success that week I'm out. And then the third for me is internal. It's more of the maintenance of my team. So I would do like a morning check-in, clear my inbox, set up my calendar for the following week. If somebody had reached out to me and they were a valued partner, I'd just be like, hey, bud, I'm out of town this week. How's next week work for you? So I'm kind of stacking my week back at the office. So I'm not just focusing my time on cleaning my desk. And I'm supporting my team. I'm loving on my VAs. I'm loving on my staff. And what you can do with a lot of stuff now is you can pre-schedule communication. So internally, we use Microsoft Teams. I pre-scheduled communication to go out to my team members last week. So most of my team doesn't know I'm out because Wednesday morning, I'm like, hey guys, don't forget CE's coming up. You need to get your CE done. Here's a couple of coupon codes. Like I'm in front of them without actually having to do anything. So I think that pre-scheduled communication to your staff, your team, your support, and just a little bit of organization makes it so that if I spent 30 minutes to an hour a day or less, I'm now spending the rest of my day fully engaged with my family and my friends on vacation.
It's good, man. The only thing that I would add, because I think is incredible advice, is a 3B, which is to the person that is going to listen to this that like doesn't have a VA. Like my team, I'm sure your team is similar. Like they have access to my inbox. And so the moment I ask them to, they can be more aware of it. They can jump in there and see if anything of value has come through that they can go and respond to on my behalf. Or they also know that if they absolutely have to, they can jump into Slack, which is what we use instead of Microsoft Teams, and say, hey, Kyle, I think there's a message in your inbox that you need to probably go check out. And then I can go look at that one message.
Yeah.
And so having more eyeballs on your inbox than just your own, to me, is such a powerful way to truly be able to like step out and feel good about not just compiling hundreds, if not 1,000 emails in the time that you were gone. And then you just know for a fact that you missed $ somewhere because an email slipped through from a potential borrower, from a potential realtor partner. So that'd be the only thing I would add in addition to everything you said.
Yeah. And what a powerful exercise it would be if you got together with one of us and did a coaching session with the sole purpose of mapping out how you could go off grid more effectively. Not because you're actually going to, but because those things benefit you no matter what. For example, so I own a co-working space and I bought it and built it because I needed an office for my mortgage company. It's now morphed into its own revenue source that as mortgage was tanking, it was actually doing well. Well, my only full-time staff member in office, her last day was the day before I left on my vacation. It's always perfect timing.
Right.
But what I then said was, I asked myself questions. Well, if I can't be there, what do I have to have in place so my member experience doesn't suffer? I needed to get a virtual answering service. That was one thing. If the phone rings, somebody polite needs to answer that phone, and it's not going to be me, right? Because if I'm hiking, camping, on an amusement park ride, whatever, it's not going to be me. I think second, you brought it up, is inbox management, email management. For a very low cost, you can have somebody managing your email for you. And that's a good thing to do even when you're not on vacation, because I would argue that if we look at your dollar per hour, the things you're great at, good at, suck at, shouldn't be doing. We went over this trim, transfer, and trash.
Yep.
You should never be like organizing and managing your inbox. That's never your best use of time. And so if you had an answering service, which you don't need to have your own mortgage company, you'd have an answering service. I did this when I was just a single LO, but I was also a fireman. And I did the same thing, only I was desperate because I would have been on a 911 call and they would call at any time. So I couldn't pre-script that day. The light would go on. I'd have to get up and leave. And I'd have to, if I was on the phone with you, my mortgage client, I was hanging up with you. So I had to say, well, what do I need so my client experience is really good? That answering service was pivotal for me. And I paid $150 a month to know that my phone was always answered by somebody bubbly, kind. They were in Florida, right? No matter what. So answering service was key for me. Number two was that inbox management. I always had somebody on my team that had access to my inbox. And here's a trick. What I did is I sort my inbox. I mean, like if you look at my inbox, I have folder after folder after folder. What I did is I put everything in a folder that I called inbox. And then I hid everything with the exception of 3 folders: urgent, non-urgent, and FYI. Everything else was hidden in inbox. I then instructed my staff member, I said, hey, you can put up to 25 emails a day in urgent, up to 25 a day in non-urgent. The rest have to go in FYI, or you have to address them. I will look at my urgent inbox 3 times a day, my non-urgent 1 time a day, my FYI once or twice a week. And so that exercise alone, now again, you can't just turn that on and not monitor it. For the first month, I was saying, hey, that's actually urgent. Hey, that is not urgent. Hey, I don't need that at all. Hey, you can create a rule for this so it sorts automatically. But just managing that alone.
Yeah.
Then you go on, and you know what you do on your iPhone? You have the same folder. So then on your iPhone, when you're on vacation, you go, I'm just going to check urgent real quick. And it's easy because you know that if there's nothing there, there's nothing there. Right. And I think that's really important.
So good, man. Guys, like Shane said, we'd love to do a one-on-one call with you. We would love the opportunity to jump on and talk through what you're going through, what you're struggling with, because here's what we know. You're not the first person to struggle with this. It may feel like it, and you may have been convinced that you're on an island, that nobody understands, that nobody cares. We do understand, we do care, and we want to help. That is why we started the collective coaching. And so we want you to be a part of it. Go to thecollectivecoaching.com. You can jump in, be a part of what we're doing, gain community, gain people in your corner, fighting the same direction, the same battles. And we will catch you on the next episode of the Collective Podcast.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody.